Welcome to another live episode of Pound Box Report. After a couple of months hiatus, we are back. I apologize for that. Life has been lifing for me. I've been going through some personal issues, family related issues, and whatnot. But we are back. I am your host, Michael, joining us joining me this evening. Um, Daniel from Four Boxing News and the Inscriber. Gail, unfortunately, from nyfights.com will not be able to join us this evening. We hope to have her back on a future episode. Her schedule is pretty busy this time of year with teaching obligations, so hope to have her back. And she will be back sooner rather than later. What's going on, Daniel?
What is going on, gentlemen? Yes, it's been a very, very long time, but I'm glad. I did say the second half of the year was gonna start getting good. A little late, but we were to do it.
And for a change, we actually had a good boxing weekend. A good series of fights for those who are new to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report live YouTube show, podcast discussing, all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Mine is if it concerns this week the science, it will get discussed. Um, if you want to find where to catch Pound for Pound Boxing Report, if you're checking us out on YouTube, um, please check the description. You will see the links to where to catch the YouTube channel, where to catch the Facebook page, um, as well as where to find us on Twitter because I refuse to call it X. Send a donation. Let donation be the best nation as we are entering the holiday season. Cash me and PayPal links within the description below. Uh, if you are into fragrances, if you are into cologne, I am a official ambassador for Navrod Fragrances, an independent fragrance house based out of Florida. Again, check the description. You will find my own personal discount code. Just go to navradfragrances.com. Let me repeat that, NIVRAD fragrances.com. If you're getting to smell good, particularly during this fall, winter season, gourmand season to a lot of folks, particularly to a lot of ladies, again, check out my discount code, pound for pound discount, pound for pound box report discount code, MICHAELWP4P. Again, you get 15% off on any and all uh, purchases from Nivrod Fragrances. Let's get things going. Daniel, recapping what was an extended weekend, I like to call it in boxing. Let's begin with what took place this morning in Tokyo as Takuma Inoue, the younger brother of um, two division undisputed champion boxing superstar Naoya Inoue. Takuma fought super popular fighter in Japan. This was a domestic showdown. Tenshin Nasakawa. Some will remember Nasakawa for the exhibition with Floyd Mayweather from a few years back. He made the transition from kickboxing into boxing and has progressed rather nicely. Nasukawa was actually the favorite heading into this bout, which was for the vacant WBC belt at 118 pounds, right? But to the surprise of quite a few, Daniel, Takuma put on one of the best performances of his career. We knew he had speed, right? Hand and foot, but it was the professionalism for me. It was the guile. He was able to outbox, outwit the younger, less experienced Nasukawa. I thought he won clearly on my end. I had it 8-4 in rounds. Um, Overall, impressive performance by the younger brother of the monster.
Yeah, and it was actually a really, really good showing by Inoue. And you couldn't tell originally from like the first probably 2 rounds of the fight, but he started to establish himself a lot more. It definitely showed that his hand speed was faster, which mean and his accuracy was top notch, which you better expect when your brother's not doing it anyway. And you can tell, like I said, it wasn't a situation where there was then going to be any controversy in the decision. This fight was clean cut, and Inoue came to impress. And luckily, that family is going to be celebrating pretty good well because we know the fight that now is going to be facing. Luckily, Takuma set the interest for the rest of the year.
Indeed. And when you look at the bantamweight landscape, it's pretty much dominated by Japan. Three of the four world champions are hailed from that nation. So one would think that the natural inclination for Takuma is to seek a unification bout against one of the fellow champions from world champions from this country. But I got another idea in mind. Now, see, and I saw some of this immediately after the fight on social media, particularly on uh, Twitter, and that is, and I wrote about this for 3kingsboxing.com. Please check out 3kingsboxing.com, your source for pure unadulterated boxing information. Shout out to the entire Three Kings Boxing crew. Uh, 2K, the man behind the head of Three Kings Boxing, Bo, head of media relations. You heard him on the show numerous times. Shout out to all the contributors, the fellow writers, Red, who does a lot of the editing and a lot of work behind the webs on the website. In my estimation, Daniel, I would like to see Takuma fight one Jesse Bam Rodriguez, who we will talk about a little bit later. Um, Peep the scenario. If Naoya and Juto Nakatani win their bouts coming up next month, they are going to fight each other April next year. I would not mind on the undercard a fight between Takuma and Bam at 118. Your thoughts?
That is an enticing fight. This is a very, very enticing fight. Not only is it a family affair, because we know Bam may have a target for 9-1 in his head come fairly soon. So that might be seen as a little bit of a barometer in that area, but that would be a very, very fun, entertaining fight. It's between two young guys that you can tell they're still learning. They're still perfecting their craft, and even at that point, you can tell how good they are.
Indeed. Bam, we'll talk about in a bit. Fought in Saudi Arabia, right? Takuma, he's only what, 28, 29. If the version that we saw this morning shows up against Bam, um, I think that makes for a very, very good fight. I would make Bam the favorite personally, but it would be a good contest overall. Let's move from Japan to what took place in Saudi Arabia um, over the weekend this past Saturday. Let's begin with the main event of that, which was David Benavidez fighting Anthony Yarde. This fight went pretty much what I expected. Listen, Anthony Yarde is the kind of guy, I call him kind of a pyrite fighter, right? Fool's gold. You look at his physique, the muscles and whatnot, you think he would be held in the ring. But let's face it, the old boxing adage is when boxers are too muscular, there's something wrong, particularly when it comes to their conditioning. I think that Yard has never been fully developed under the guidance of Tunde Ajay. Um, he's more athlete than he is true skilled boxer. And he faced the Benavidez, who's at the top of his game. Um, the professionalism that I saw in Takuma this morning. We saw it in David Benavidez over the weekend in Saudi Arabia, right? Uh, he did what you are supposed to do when you are an elite fighter fighting an inferior opponent. Slowly broke him down and took him out.
Not only took him out, he did it very, very effectively. Like,
Indeed, absolutely.
yeah, the one thing about it, and what was interesting to me was hearing Mannix, like I said, the commentary for Ring Magazine. I think it was either Mannix or Mora that tried to say that Yarde may have had the heavier hands between him and Benavidez. Well, we have to remember a couple of things. Like, you can have heavier hands, but unfortunately, one of the bad things about Yarde, and it does show when he has to fight when the lights are on. It showed against Kovalev, and it showed here. He can't, as heavy handed as he can be, he can't put it together as far as not just 1-2 combinations, like multi punch combinations. Something that David can do fairly easily.
And he can do it for an extended amount of time, Daniel. I heard that. I think it was Maddox, and it's not the first time that Maddox has been wrong. Here's the problem with that assessment: Yard's power and his strength and his energy is not. He doesn't sustain it over the long haul. This is what I'm talking about with a big muscular dude who looks like a football player in boxing gloves. They don't have any real stamina.
Yeah, it's the main critique. It's the biggest critique that you can have when a fighter is chiseled on it. Like, and we've seen it at all levels. Like Anthony Joshua has, it's been one of his things that happened later on. It is one of the factors that led to his 2 losses against Usyk. But in this fight, it was a combination of Yard not putting enough punches and David being able to just step into the pocket. And by the 5th round, effectively landing at will. And the good thing, luckily, the referee was keeping an eye out from that point, because I believe it was the 6th round where the knockdown happened. 6th or 7th round when you had the knockdown that pretty much told the story of the fight, where David landed, I think, a nice 4 or 5 punch combination, and Yarde just crumbled, went to a knee in the corner. And that was after the previous round, his nose been busted up pretty bad, to the point where the referee had to take it to the doctors first just to see if he should continue. And luckily, the fight was stopped before it got any worse. But at the end of the day, luckily for David, it still shows that he still has, even at a heavier weight, he still has the hand speed and he has the endurance compared to somebody, unfortunately, like Yarde, who never really developed that endurance.
Now, after the fight, Daniel, Benavidez announced basically that he's moving up to cruiserweight to fight Zero Ramirez. Ramirez, unified champion, as we know, at cruiserweight, coming off of a win over Chris Billum Smith earlier this year. Wise move or not on the part of Benavidez? A lot of people would like to see him fight either Bertobiev or Bivol. Should they finally get on with their trilogy? Do you think it's smart for him to just move up to collect another belt against a guy I think he would beat? Or should he just continue chopping wood, if you will, at 175 until he can land a fight with either Bertobiev or Bivol, who many people feel are the two best at 175?
Well, that's the interesting part of it. Like, there's not a lot of, unfortunately, wood to chop right now at 175. But that's one end. The other, though, is it's the chasm between light heavyweight and cruiserweight. Let's remember, folks, obviously light heavyweight's 175. cruiserweight is 200 pounds. That's the biggest jump from weight classes outside of going to heavyweight, going straight to heavyweight. Now, David will be used to it because early on, like I said, even though he didn't have a long amateur career, he fought mainly as a cruiser or light or a heavyweight. He was that big. That's one of those best stories that he can tell when it comes to boxing is boxing helped him slim down dramatically from what he was before. And while his body may be able to handle probably that weight jump, Zerto is somebody that has faced a similar conundrum before. Now, granted, it was after he got outclassed by Bivol, but he at least fought well, even in being outclassed. And it took a little bit for him to make the adjustment to cruiserweight because of that weight jump. You're asking David now to do the same against a man who's now firmly settled as a cruiserweight. That's a dangerous combination. That is a dangerous combination to do. But I also get it at the same time that it may offer big money. Obviously, it does involve the blood money. But also at the same time, like I said, I wouldn't blame this. There's not a lot of wood to chop at 175. And unfortunately, with Bivol and Baturbiev, it looks like those two are more concerned with that, with a domestic rivalry with them, than trying to defend the titles, particularly with Canelo still hovering around. So we have to see how that shapes up.
Sorry, I was on mute. Let's get to some of these fights on the undercard. Now, I named part of my title. I named the title of this particular episode, Devin Haney Resurrects His Career, because when it came to in the aftermath of this card, he was the talk of the weekend, right? Haney fought Brian Norman, moving up to 147. Norman coming, uh, WBO belt holder coming off of that sensational knockout win over Jin Sasaki. The question heading into this fight was about Haney. Has he lost his swagger? Does he have his confidence, if you will, right? And he showed over the weekend that he's not done yet, for lack of better words. Put Norman down in the early rounds, and then did enough boxing. And I say boxing because a lot of people said he ran. Some say he ran and whatnot, but he did enough boxing. He kept Norman at bay for the most part, and I was impressed by what he did. And now he's the new welterweight champion. Your thoughts on his performance? Were you surprised at how the fight developed overall?
Yes and no. The part that surprised me was that Haney did try to go for the gusto much sooner than I expected to. I expected him more to break Norman down a little bit and then try to, like I say, get a good knockdown going in the sixth, in the seventh round. He did this in the second round, and again, we have to give a slight shout out to the Ring Magazine commentary team on the Zone. They mentioned that Devin Haney might have been gunning for his first knockout win in 7 years. That's a long time, folks. That goes back, unfortunately, to the first Trump administration. And it also highlights one of the main complaints that people have when they're talking about Devin Haney. The fact that, he doesn't go for the gusto. He's not a highlight fighter. He's just a guy that just want to get points. but it showed there that there's the tenacity in there, and a lot of it could be affected by trying to make weight. And once that got done, it was effective cruise control. Haney landed crisper combinations. He landed the better punches. His hand speed was better. Norman got his chances, though. I will admit, Norman got his chances where he was trying to settle down, establish a jab, hit to the body, but unfortunately, it was a little bit too little, too late. Now, the main discrepancy, folks, that you're going to hear is mainly on the scorecards for this. Now, it was still unanimous decision. One judge had it 114, 113. Obviously, kind of the knockdown, that's a 7-5 card. I agree with more with the 116, 112 card. Norman had good chances, but it was more or less Haney really, really showing that he can still step it up in big moments and that he can still put in great performances as he needs to. Because now he has a belt and we know who's circling around and trying to get a rematch with him, even though he probably doesn't really need it at this point. Ryan Garcia. But it's a good showing for Devin Haney. And I like the fact, like I said, that Norman didn't try to say like, oh, it was robbed, it was a different fight. It was the better man won, plain and simple.
Okay, forgive me, Ryan Garcia. Okay, for right now. Last time we saw him in the ring, he was getting pumped and bullied by Rolly, and he was crying afterwards. Um, what I'm more interested in is the reaction of one Connor Ben. Right during our hiatus, the rematch between Ben and Eubank happened over in London. Ben won by wide decision, right? And afterwards, he talked about he wanted all the smoke with anybody at 147. To paraphrase him, bring on you Yanks, quote, yeah, bring on you Yanks and whatnot. He was in attendance, Ben and Eddie Hearn, for that Riyadh season card, right? Asked to, when asked about a proposed fight with Haney, Ben and Hearn basically did all they could to belittle um, belittle Haney. Oh, he's boring. Oh, he's a runner. Oh, he doesn't bring good action. Oh, he's not a good ticket seller. Yada 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 yada. Right? Um, then they went on. Then he went on to say, "Well, I want Barrios, or I want Garcia." Then later down, maybe Haney. Okay, here's the problem. One, who are you to dictate anything when you really haven't done anything at 147? Two, okay, Haney is boring. I haven't heard anyone talk about Barrios being the most exciting fighter in the world. That's B. C, and most importantly, you can't have it both ways. You cannot, after your win over Eubank, talk about how you want everybody, but then when asked about a fight with Haney, oh, you giving these stipulations and you giving these conditions and you putting this asterisk over a proposed fight with Haney. To me, it says that, okay, Ben, you saw the real Devin Haney in that fight with Brian Norman. And if that real Haney shows up, do you think you can beat him? I don't think they do.
Nope. But that shows and tell, like what I mentioned before when you were out. Like it's unfortunately, it's that reputation that he had. Because remember, I mentioned Mannix put in the commentary when the second round knockdown happened, when it looked like maybe Haney was going to be able to pull it out. It would have been his first knockout win in 7 years. And unfortunately, in those 7 years, he did get that reputation for being a boring fighter, for just being a guy that coasts into it, despite all the talent. And I think we've been on record to say that we ourselves have made that criticism of Haney. But it's a good way to make sure that this show was titled "He Resurrects His Career" because it shows in the new weight division that Devin Haney can handle his power. He can carry his power from 140 to 147, not show a little bit more. And I think he shows now that he notices now more of a sense of urgency. That he knows he has to make the fight exciting in order to make the big money. Conor Bennett big money, especially after beating Eubank.
Okay, I think fight with Haney and Ben makes the most sense. I don't want to see a Haney Garcia rematch because Garcia hasn't earned that opportunity. You can't. I don't care. We saw the results of the first fight, but we also know that Ryan Garcia popped positive, right, for PEDs. You can't come off of a loss against Roland Romero and then have the attitude that him and Golden Boy have and talking about Haney this and Haney that and rematch. But I don't buy it. Where should Haney go now?
I would say, yeah, go to straight to Ben. Try to get that money. Try to get that money because if you make yourself look good enough, unfortunately, there's also the potential big money fight with. I am sorry to say this, Mike Manny.
No, 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 no,
I
no,
I I
no.
know I know, but you know it's there. Like if he's going after a belt, even if Manny's technically unretiring, it's the money fight at that weight division at that point.
Giant sigh. I don't want to see that either. But it is what it is. I'm going to take this next fight with Bab, and then you can follow up and talk about Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes. We mentioned Bam Rodriguez when we talk about Takuma Inoue. Bam on the undercard of Benavidez Yarde as part of this Rion season card. Fought a unification bout against Fernando Martinez, and Bam is showing himself to be one of the best fighters in the world, pound for pound. He's elite at this point, much in the way that Benavidez just was professional in the way he um, de- de- deconstructed and destroyed with destruct and destroy mode on ultimately Anthony Yarde. Bam did the same thing against Fernando Martinez. At times, I thought he toyed with Martinez. He knew he was the superior fighter. Uh, Basically, as soon as he signed the contract and he doing the post-fight comments, he said he knew that he had him during round one, and just clinical execution on the part of Bam. Uh, Knocked him out in 10. The future, as I discussed during the fight with Inoue, I would like to see Bam fight Takuma Inoue. Bam Rodriguez is on record saying he wants to move up to 118 in 2026 to become a three division champion. I think that a fight with Takuma is a natural, particularly in Japan, where if Bam decides to go to Japan, he would make a really good paycheck. Um, yeah, whether it's on the undercard of what we all anticipate to be Naoya Inoue and Juto Nakatani in April, or on a separate card them headlining a separate card themselves, that is the route to go. Bam Rodriguez has nothing to prove at 115 pounds. Could he become undisputed if he wanted to? Yeah, but to me, that's kind of empty calories. I want to see him what he can do at 118 pounds, where I think the division is a little bit better right now um, than the current division is at 115. Bam says he wants to fight at bantamweight in the future. Doggone it, do it. Doggone it, do it. And ultimately, let's see him and Takuma get in the ring and test themselves against each other. Final fight on that card that I
Oh, I'm sorry, folks. Yeah, Mike may have accidentally dropped off, but yeah, the last fight I know we had in this preview was Abdullah Mason versus Sam Oaks. This was and this was a very very fun fight. Abdullah Mason is one of the younger up and coming fighters, and this was a fight between two undefeated titles, two undefeated fighters fighting for a title, and this is a fight that can be considered a star making performance by Abdullah Mason. He took a real good amount of shots from Noakes, but he was able to weather an early storm and then just put on a great, masterful performance. Beautiful, beautiful, massive performance. And nothing against Sam Noakes. Like I said, he did fight his heart out as well. But Abdullah Mason was thoroughly, thoroughly outclassing him throughout the fight. And it shows, like I said, it's 21 years old. I think right now he is the youngest champion in the sport. And in doing so, like I said, puts a highlight again in the lower weight classes. Because in boxing, folks, remember, we're here to pop for box sport. We love the little guys. We love it. Even when it's like some things like lightweight, it is still an outstanding
okay. Pardon
performance.
my apologies. I'm dealing with some technical issues on my end. I don't know if you heard my thoughts on Bam versus Fernando Martinez. Daniel, simply, I'm going to shorten it here. Bam did what he had to do. It was clinical. Um, uh, the excellence of execution. Shout out to Bret Hart. That's how I would describe Bam's performance against Fernando Martinez and knocking him out. As we discussed in the fight about Takuma Inoue, I would like to see Takuma fight Bam at 118 pounds. Bam says he wants to move up to down in weight and seek a third world title in a third division, a world title in a third division. Whether it's on the undercard of what we anticipate to be Naoya and Nakatani spring 2026, or them fighting on a separate card in Japan. I think that's the route that Bam should go moving forward. Now, last fight on the card I want to highlight here is Abdullah Mason's Sam Noakes, most entertaining fight of the of that evening. Fought for a vacant belt at 135 pounds. Mason won, but he made the fight harder on himself, right? He got the win. He's 21 years old. It showed. Tough fight for him, but I think it's a fight that I think he can grow from and learn from.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think you heard what I was saying. That I was pretty much singing the praises of Abdullah Mason in that manner because, like I said, Noakes fought great. Like you couldn't tell by a lot of the scorecards, but he fought really, really well. This was a fight between two undefeated guys, and but Abdullah Mason really, really stepped up to the challenge. There was some trouble spots early, but he weathered the storm and he just put on a clinic. Youngest champion, I think, I believe in the sport, if I'm correct, Mike. And it's still like I still say like in one of the lower weight divisions in that area, but it is one of the glamour divisions too of the sport at lightweight. And it's so great to see like somebody like that young, that already polished at that stage. It does remind me a bit of like a bit like Bam. Like, and it's good to see seeing people like that, like Bam Rodriguez, Abdullah Mason, young fighters who are coming into sport and coming really, really polished and are rising to the moment.
35 is open with Keyshawn Davis moving up in weight. Um, Shakur Stevenson has a belt right, but it's likely that he's going to fight Teofimo at 140 first quarter next year. If you're top ranked right now, where do you see him? Where do you see them taking him? I think that because he's still there still needs to be some seasoning and some polish that he has to do. He's not complete. I think they ought to give him a couple of easier title defenses, following what was really at this point the toughest battle of his career.
Yeah, there's even though like I said, Mason is already showing he's pretty polished even at this stage. Yeah, you give him good defenses. You can't throw him. Keyshawn Davis might be a little bit of an easier fight, and unfortunately, with Keyshawn Davis's tendency to be Keyshawn Davis outside of the ring, there's that, and unfortunately with Shakur, that's pretty much what Abdullah Mason is aiming to become at that stage. Because it took a little while for Shakur to make himself into what he is now. You can't put somebody like Abdullah Mason against somebody like Dan Shakur who knows what he needs to do. So mainly, I would say, yeah, stick the route. Do a couple of mandatory defenses. You know, it's a WBO. Sadly, folks, we know one of the acronyms of WBO. We're Bob's organization. So there's ways around it. We can make two defenses, build Abdullah Mason's resume up so that when it's time to actually fight a Keyshawn Davis or to fight a Shakur Stevenson or even fight a Teofimo Lopez, you're more ready than not.
Let's move to some news here. And after long being rumored, it was announced uh, during our time off, right, that Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua are deep going to fight each other. First, it was thought to be an exhibition, but apparently this is going to be a real fight next month in Miami.
Yep.
I mean, and the reason I asked that because let's face it, Jake Paul has been fighting old men and bums, and but he loved to talk about how he's so great and how he's this and that, how he's that, he's ready for anybody and what. He was supposed to fight Tank Davis in the quote unquote exhibition, which was a farce until Tank messed up the bag. Um, I saw the press conference for Joshua and Paul. The energy that Paul usually has, that annoying level of arrogance that gets on a lot of people's nerves, mine included, it wasn't there. He had to sit there and look face to face into that behemoth of a human being that is Anthony Joshua, who's not one bit scared of him. Uh, you saw a different body language, a different tone. The fact that Jake Paul couldn't even look Joshua in the eye during the stare down, or it took him a long time to finally look him in the eye, that says something to me. I think reality hit this dude in the behind big time.
Now, folks, I know Mike got caught off cough a little bit, but I think I know the question that he asked. Mainly the belief that this will even happen. First, okay, let's actually go back a little bit to when the fight between Jake Paul and Tank got announced. If you're a boxing fan, you were now a lot more disappointed in Tank than you are normally, because Tank was one of the few fighters that outright made a point to refuse the blood money. But unfortunately, then his other tendency, which is alleged domestic violence, creeps up as well, and it
Yeah,
was enough for Jake Paul to get out of the fight. Now, I think Jake Paul wanted out of that fight with Tank for the reason of the simple fact is he was never gonna get any credit for it. He was gonna fight some at least with the old MMA guys. It was a comparable weight difference. With Tank, it was literally a 60 or 65-pound difference between Jake Paul and Tank Davis. It would have been comical to watch, and like I said, we would be like, or actual box fans, all would be really be just disappointed that Tank even took that fight to begin with. But even while losing money, luckily favoritism shines on Tank in that area. Anthony Joshua is an interesting pivot to go to from Tank Davis, because I saw that same look, Mike, that you saw in the press conference. Jake Paul didn't in any other fight did not have to look up at somebody. He had to look up to Joshua. And you could tell the size difference when it comes to Joshua, to the point where they had to put a clause in the contract that Joshua can't weigh more than 245 pounds on fight night. That's still a very, very huge size difference. But this is the part where I will say it's a little bit smart on Jake Paul's part. He wasn't going to get credit for Tank. Now the onus is on Joshua. If this is going to be an actual fight and nothing, no shenanigans happening, I'm not expecting anything less than a Mike Tyson special for Joshua. If this fight goes to a second round, it will be a failure on Anthony Joshua's part. It should be a knockout. It should be a highlight reel knockout. And it should be one of those lists that you see on YouTube where you say dangerous knockouts that ruin people's lives.
In other words, ice him out like he did on Gano.
Pretty much. Like okay, yeah, for the younger ones among us, not so much the Mike Tyson special, the Deontay Wilder special. That's what should happen. But that's the expectation is going to be on Joshua now. So Jake Paul pretty much is now playing with house money. Should the fight happen? Because the bad part about it is Jake Paul is a smart businessman when it comes to the fight selection on it. I think Joshua was mainly the main choice because he needed to get something of a marquee name that was free. And Joshua was going to start making his comeback fight after that loss to Daniel Dubois. So there is a chance that he may catch an Anthony Joshua that's not fully prepared yet. But at the same time, Anthony Joshua is a former multi-belt champion. And he lost to arguably, like I said, the best fighter in the division, Alexander Usyk. And he did get knocked out. But that's pretty much the only other main blemishes. I forgot. Andy Ruiz. I do not want to forget Andy Ruiz, because that was the first time where Joshua's chin really got exposed. But that's probably the gamble that Jake Paul wants to take. That maybe if I land the right punch, I can actually hurt Joshua. But I don't think we expect that.
Well, he could get hurt against Dillian White, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, with Dillian White, it's like more of a body shot type of situation where you could tell like that was a weakness in the body. Andy Ruiz was that was just a shock because he never recovered after the first knockdown. He never really recovered. and Usyk just pretty much took his soul and then his sanity for a bit. So yeah, you're not. It's true. He's not fighting somebody like an undefeated record, but it's still a professional fighter that is still. I would still say in the latter part of his prime, he hasn't gotten out of his prime yet, and it's somebody that still has ambitions to get back to the top of the division once Usyk retires.
And again, they're going to fight December um, 19th in Miami. I'm a little bit intrigued by the fact that Joshua was going to apparently do some training with the Usyk camp, if you will. Uh, I want to see how Joshua does at that weight. He hadn't weighed 245 in a long time, in a number of years. He's been fighting he's been fighting all of his recent bouts in the 250, 255 range and trying to get down to that low weight on relative short notice. That will be an interesting aspect. But if Joshua is any semblance of the fighter that we saw up until Daniel Dubois, when he just didn't seem to have no chin and no answers for Dubois that evening last year. Um, I agree with you, Daniel. Joshua should take care of business. I think that's what Jake Paul is banking on. That he can find a way to hurt Joshua. The problem is if Joshua gets the jab cooking, and if he's fight smart and uses his distance, there's like a what 6, 8 difference in disparity in height. And there's also a disparity in reach. And Jake Paul has never fought anybody with a decent jab. Jake Paul has never fought anybody who's the decent boxer, and Joshua has a decent jab, is a decent boxer. He still packs a wallop in his punch, and I don't trust Jake Paul's chin. I think if he lands on Jake Paul with any with the right hand on any kind of a consistent basis, he's going to knock him out. And I agree. Put it this way: if if Joshua is forced to go rounds like Fury did against Ngannou, that will be a disappointment and that will be alarming, particularly Joshua at this stage of his career in his mid 30s. Uh, um, Low key, personally, um, I would not mind seeing a knockout because I'm not so at all on Paul as a fighter. I give him a decent amount of respect for him being a businessman and being a promoter, but as a fighter, I give him absolutely none. So it'll be interesting how things will develop. Um, Roughly a month from now in your neck of the woods, Daniel, South Beach. I left the fight schedule open because in truth, I wasn't interested in what I saw. I wasn't moved by what I saw. But in terms of fights happening this weekend, has anything grabbed your attention?
No, it's Thanksgiving weekend, so uh, nothing really came up unfortunately this weekend that we highlights. But folks, if we wind up talking about it next week, boxing has a way of surprising people with insanely entertaining fights when nobody expects them.
I mean, yeah.
But
Look, Ben Whitaker is officially signed with DAZN. He makes his debut with DAZN this weekend in Birmingham, England. Um, there's a WBO featherweight eliminator between Lorenzo Parra and Elijah Pierce. That's a decent bout. We may talk about that next week. But other than that, it's not much happening in the division. I mean, in overall, excuse me, in terms of the boxing landscape. Unfortunately, Frazier Clark, he fights this weekend in his home country of England. And so, yeah, outside of that, there's little to get excited about, unfortunately. And I think we're going to end things on that note because, again, the weekend is pretty dry. This weekend is, especially compared to what just took place this past weekend. Usually I go ladies first to begin and ladies first to end, but because Gail is not with us this evening, I go to you, Daniel, from Four Boxing News and the Inscriber. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk pro wrestling, for those who want to talk the Miami Heat when it comes to the NBA. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yes, you see that name on the socials, folks. It is they pretty much nice socials throughout. It Raucus99 on Twitter, RWKZ99 on Twitter. Yes, Elon, I do not care. Send your bots from India after me at this point. Because he let that cat out of the bag. But I'll never call it X. It is Twitter, Blue Sky, Spill, pretty much any IG, pretty much any social media platform that I was able to find. I got that name on there. And like I said, good things are happening. Like I mentioned, the Heat right now beating the Mavs pretty good, and Tyler Hero's back, which is always a good thing. That team is going to be insane now. And when talking to
They're
wrestling, I
running and
will.
gunning. They're running and gunning your Miami Heat this year.
Yeah, yes, they finally let Spo. They finally unshackled Spo's playbook, and that's a dangerous thing. Like, maybe Jimmy Butler was the problem, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Uh, but I will also say I am also part. I did also get up a part when it came to wrestling because one of my favorite genres, not my favorite genre when it comes to wrestling, is the Joshi division, Japanese women's wrestling. And I did link up, and we actually developed another podcast as well, the Joshi Cyber Squad podcast. We myself, you'll probably know this guy from your neck of the woods, Mike, a Blitzball Gaming. He's also a fellow Panthers fan, so I'm pretty sure he's watching with very much intent the game. And so we have, let's see, Misfit Bach, we have Misfits, and we have a couple of other people. We have them from all over, LA, Canada, Emerson Punch, Florida, talking the same thing. We're going to be doing the same throughout. It is a passion of mine to always talk about sports, to talk about boxing, to talk about wrestling, and hopefully it'll be the same. And hopefully you see folks get this all back on track.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, and all things smell good colognes, you can do so on Twitter because, like Daniel, I refuse to call it X. Brother JR, um, at Brother JR76. You can also check me out on IG, Brother JRSC. I'm also on Blue Sky, Brother JR76. And again, since for those who are interested in colognes and whatnot, if you're checking us out on YouTube, please check the description. You will find, if you scroll down in the description area, you will find the personal pound for pound boxing report discount code for Navrod fragrances. Please uh, uh, check that out. Since we are in gourmand season, particularly for the ladies who like this, who are into their gourmands this time of year, who are into their fall and winter fragrances. Use the code MICHAELWP4P and you get 15% off on all purchases, on all items, whether full size bottles or travel size from Nivrod Fragrances. If you're checking us out on YouTube, please make sure you hit that like button. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. To do so, you will get notifications on all future episodes and whatnot of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. On the next episode, we may not do recaps per se, but we will certainly do previews for sure and news since the weekend of December 6th looks to be a pretty decent one. The return of Lamont Roach, coming off what many felt was a win over Javante Davis, though the fight ended up being a draw. Roach is moving up to 140 to fight Pitbull Cruz. in San Antonio on the undercard unification bout at 160. Janabek on the Alan Canuli fighting Arislandi Lara. Also on that card, Oshaki Foster fighting Stephen Fulton Jr. Shock Foster defending his 130-pound WBC 130-pound uh, 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 title. Also, Imasi Carlo, one of the best women's fighters in the world, Beatrice Ferreira defending her IBF women's lightweight title, and a guy who I feel is clearly the best at cruiserweights, Jai Opataya defending his IBF cruiserweight belts against a fighter by the name of Sin Cara in Australia. So we will preview all of those fights. So again, for Gail, and since she wasn't with us this evening, let me give her information. If you want to chop it up and talk boxing with her, you can do so on nyfights.com. She also has a YouTube channel called Gail Falkenthal Sports, I believe it is. Um, if I'm wrong, my apologies. But she also has a YouTube channel where she does um, interviews, fighters, and whatnot. You can check her out on Twitter, PR Pro San Diego. Let me repeat that again at PR Pro San Diego. Unfortunately, she's not here with us this evening. She will be back on a future episode. So for Gail, who unfortunately is not here, for Daniel of For Boxing News and Scriber. I am your host, Michael. This has been episode 276 of the Pound for Pound Box. 476, what am I saying? 476 of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening, good night, and happy Turkey Day.
Yeah, happy Turkey Day. I just saw this, Mike, just in case. Unfortunately, uh, rest in peace,
Oh
Vanes
yes, you're
Rosen.
absolutely right. Let me say that right now, before we I hit that uh, close button. Yeah, news broke. Uh, I saw it earlier today. Former champion, I believe at 154 pounds, Vanes Martirosyan, lost his battle with cancer and passed away at the young age of 39. Um, it's sad, always sad when a former boxer, former world champion passes away. But for someone to pass away um, so young, um, it's even more heartbreaking. Let you end this off, Daniel. Uh, Reaction to the passing of Linus Monterosa.
Yeah, he didn't have a full title, but he was 2004 Olympian. He was always in the window, always a contender when it came to that weight division. And an interesting fact, he was the he was that late replacement opponent for Gennady Golovkin. One of his fights, if it was if should the California Commission not have denied a then very very young Jaime Munguia for the nine that we probably he probably would have never been able to fight somebody like Triple G. But like I said, Vanes was always there, always a contender, but never really reached his potential as a champion. But it is sad to go, unfortunately, especially not even get 40. 2 year battle with skin cancer. It's just it's heartbreaking. Like I said, my condolences to his family, his kid. I think he does have kids, I believe. To his kids, his gym, his community. Rest in peace, Mr. Matarojo.
Indeed, indeed, I share Daniel's thoughts and prayers. Rest in honor. Our condolences, of course, on behalf of Daniel here and everyone at Pound for Pound Box Report, to Vanes Monterosyan, his loved ones, his friends, and his family, who, again, in case you haven't heard, passed away due to complications from skin cancer at the very young age of 39. Hate to end things on that sad note, but thank you again, Daniel, for reminding me. Wanted to get that out and acknowledge him on this particular episode. Again, for Daniel, for Gail, who unfortunately is not with us this evening, this has been episode 476 of the Pound for Pound Box Report. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.